right. Okay. Good night, everyone. Welcome once again to Wake the Nation. I'm so used to doing Words of Pearls. This is Wake the Nation. Oh, know your platform. This is Wake the Nation, where myself, Florencia Chang-Ageda, and my co-host, Thais Love, our resident psychologist, will be addressing two issues tonight: how to regulate your emotions and how to rewire your brain for mental strength. And we know that everybody can use this. I just want to share with you. So, in honor of March, and the first month of spring, right, where women are being recognized in this month. However, I find it so, what do you think? I find it so, I say, we're women every single day. However, that they chose the first month of spring for women who are the bearers of life, right? The bringers of life, the birthers of life. And so I find that it just has some poetic justice there. Uh, According to the American Psychology Association 2023 Stress in America survey, there was one done in 2023. It states that women are at a higher level of stress than men, right? I wonder why, right? It has been reported that women we know are more likely to be affected by stress because of biological and as well as societal, right, factors. Biological, you got it, menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause. Some biological factors that can affect. Illness also can affect that. However, basically, these are the three primary biological factors that do can cause stress. And, men don't really, um, they can't give birth or anything like that. So that doesn't apply to them. But then societal, you do have women who are more pressured to um, balance their roles at work, family, right? And being a caretaker, right? So there are many who are caring for their spouses, their children, and grandchildren, as well as parents. There's some people, some females that are taking care of four generations of people, right? Some are taking care of three, some are taking care of two. And even if you're single and some are single, there are still other factors out there that society puts pressures on young women to look a certain way, right? And in the dating scene, and it creates body dysmorphia, right? Where because if you're told you're supposed to look a certain way and you think, so sometimes you see folks thinking of themselves as being larger than they really are. Body dysmorphia is real, or much smaller than they really are. So there are a lot of factors, and these uh, factors leads to burnout, right? It leads to um, women being overwhelmed, right? And so tonight, if you find yourself to be emotionally overloaded, right? Because that's emotional overload, which overwhelms one, right? Then here we're here to share some solutions on how you can regulate your emotions, how you can rewire your brain for mental strength. Because at the end of the day, you do need to be strong so that you can fulfill your purposes and do what you need to do. What I found, the psychiatrist, Dr. Tracy Marks, she has some cards that I will look for and remind you of or if Reverend Love has the website where you can get the cards from that will help in your daily, being able to take control of your emotions, right? And so If you think you feel like you're spiraling out of control, and you may feel like you're going to lose it, I want to tell you you're stronger than you really know that you are. Hang in there. There are some solutions that will help you. You see, intense stress will either make you want to flee or freeze, right? It's the fight or flight, right? And freezing is a part of it. It's fear, right? And so um when you're feeling emotional overload, you can't think clearly. It's because your brain is involved, right? And the part of your brain that is trying to override your frontal lobe, which is your center of thinking, right? Rational decision making, um is that part that's saying, hey, run away or pass out, or you know how you feel, right? When you get that way, when you get the knots in your stomach and you're like, what am I going to do? And you feel like you're going to crumble, but you're not, because you're stronger, right? And so you can take back control so that you can focus on where you are. Make yourself present again to realize that what you're feeling will not destroy you. What you're feeling will not make you crumble, right? And it can feel like that. So here are some strategies, because when you're going through that, have you ever been at the beach and had the waves knock you over? Have you ever been there and you thought, oh, there's a tiny little wave, not going to do too much. And then it comes and boom. And that's what being emotionally overloaded can feel like. But just the same way, the wave doesn't knock you out and take you out into the water because you somehow get grounded in the sand. It's the same way you can ground yourself. So there are certain strategies. And here's one of the strategy. It's the savoring your senses strategy. That is a grounding technique, by the way. And so that helps you when you focus, right, with your senses. You're going to utilize one of your five senses. What are they? The sense of touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste, right? And I always say it's good to go with touch. And I think psychiatrists and psychologists also say that, because you can um, you can find a specific stimulus, you can pick up an object, you can have your phone, like my phone, you can see my phone has ridges. So it's not just, if I rub my phone, there are like different areas on my phone, as you can see, right? So there are some heightened areas. So you can pick up your phone, which is something that is readily available. Your keys, if you're outside and you have your keys, you usually have more than one key. Some are small, and even with the keys, that the sound can be utilized in that respect. If you're home and you have a cup of tea, that can, your sense of smell, that can be used to ground you. And then your sense of sight, you can focus on one thing. Maybe you can focus on your curtain. Maybe you can focus on the plant. Maybe you can focus on the tree. Hopefully you're not driving. If you're driving, pull over, right? And just focus. You can pull out your phone and maybe look at a picture of your spouse, your child, someone you love or know, or someone that brings you peace. Not the person who is going to cause you to get even more, make the situation become more exacerbated. No, not the person who will make it worse, but that person who brings you calm. That person who will help you to, and if you're a Christian, definitely you can open up and go to the Word. And sometimes I tell you what, the Word is spirit and life. So hey, so, but having that immediate sense of touch, you can close your eyes and just focus. Close your eyes as you hold on to it. What am I touching? I'm touching my phone. And take deep breaths. Breathe in deeply. Hold it and breathe out. because that is going to help to ground you. That is going to grounding, meaning help you to be relieved, bring you back to the present, to make you realize, wait a minute, the thought that was racing to say, oh, you're losing it, you're dying, or you're, because you can feel like your heart pounding and you're like you can't breathe. And that shallow breathing is no good. But when you take that deep breath, you then your cells get some oxygen. So you're helping your body to calm down. You're helping your mind so you can focus, so you can say, hey, wait a minute, what I thought was happening isn't happening. Whew, what a sense of relief that is, huh? And so you acknowledge how the object you're holding make you feel, or the tea that you're smelling, or if it's a candle, or if it's a perfume, a fragrance, something that is calming, or the sound of keys make you think of home, make you think of, oh, I'm calm when I'm at home and in my bed, so put it making those associations, right? So, and what it does is that particular strategy, the strategy of savoring your senses, grounding yourself, allows your brain to divert from the distressing thoughts that you were having, the ones that made your heart race, that made you couldn't breathe, that make you feel like you can't go any further, and it will calm you so that you can then deal with whatever the issue may be. The next strategy is to label your emotion, right? So, what is that? That's when you consciously identify how it is that you are feeling at that moment. What emotion are you experiencing, right? What you're doing is activating the part of your brain that will help you to rationalize. The moment you try to figure out, what am I feeling? Am I anxious? Am I angry? Am I hurt? Am I sad? Am I fearful? Right? The moment you, no, I'm not fearful right now. Wait, this emotion that I'm having is because I'm angry. I was thinking about something that someone did to me, and the anger was rising up. But at the same time, it made my heart pound. It made my head go light. So, and then you find, wait, when you do that, you can then, right? Make sure you acknowledge how you're feeling. And to acknowledge your feeling simply is separating you from your emotion. So it's like you're looking at, wait, what's that? That was anger. That was fear. But I don't need to be. I don't need to be fearful, or I don't need to be, or even if you're fearful, wait, but I, it cannot harm me, right? And so, uh, the better you get at naming your emotion, the less they will control you and the more they put you in control. So when you feel that emotion coming up a second time, you're like, you know what? No, not right now. Mm-mm, mm-mm, no. So listen, um as I said, emotions that we go through, emotions. So when you feel happy, you're hurt, you're sad, you're angry, you feel inadequate, you feel, the feelings, the emotions. But the thing is, don't let the waves of emotion knock you over. You've just been given two techniques, right? Label them, savor, or ground yourself, right? And these techniques will help you to build emotional regulation. They will help you to be in control of your emotions so that your emotions do not knock you over like the waves on the ocean, but instead you can ground yourself, you can label it, and you can say, no, I am in control. And you can utilize these strategies to engage your brain so that you can regain control of your thoughts and your emotions. And you'll know how to deal with them, whether you're on the job, you're at home, you're out in the street. Because so many times we see people getting angry at people driving, and because they had other things going on. People have lost their lives simply because of that. Just being enraged, being angry with someone, the other person, they didn't know that person was dealing with someone. When they got angry, when they flipped them off and told them different things, and then that person retaliates. And many times, sometimes they've had guns and they don't think about it. And now they've killed or maimed or killed a person, and now they're going to jail. See, we cannot allow our emotions to carry us away or overwhelm us. And for those of you who do have your hands full, do take time out, take a respite, take time, sit, drink a cup of tea or coffee or something that is soothing, that will ground you, that will just make you breathe. Say, breathe. Even taking a deep breath. You could be a nurse, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer. Doesn't matter what your profession are, or if you have no profession at all at this time, you're a student or you're just living life. Do not let life overwhelm you to the point where you miss out on enjoying it and doing what you were created to do. And with that being said, I now turn you over to psychologist Thais Love, who's going to share with you how to rewire your brain for mental strength.
Good evening.
Thais
Good evening.
Love,
Thank you so much. Rev, you
we're not hearing. I'm not hearing you. Hello?
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to just thank you for sharing with us those two very useful strategies, and you explained it really, really well. Um,
Thank
and
you.
these are strategies that are very useful in these days and times. So thank you for that. What I'm going to talk about is how your brain uh, rewires itself. I'm going to talk about something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, very, very big word, but it's uh, it's a simple word that simply um, means it talks about your brain's ability to adapt, to reorganize itself. Um, in response to an impactful situation that may have occurred, or in response to some kind of stimuli in your environment that causes you to have an emotional reaction, as well as a physical reaction, as well as a mental reaction. Our brain is incredibly made. I mean, we are well equipped. God
Yep.
made sure that we are well equipped to deal with everything that we have to come across in life. We are well equipped. So even when we are in situations where we may feel overwhelmed, without asking our brain already goes into motion to speak to the body and protect or tell our bodies, our minds, our hearts even uh, to respond to whatever's going on. And we don't even have to think fully about it. We don't have to say, okay, brain, I think this is a time to kick in now. No, the brain just goes right into it. And uh, our brains are able to adapt, to change, to shift, to reorganize itself at any moment in time, okay, on the spot, and does it rather quickly, Okay. Our brain truly is the best computer, um, as well. But our brain is able to do all of that in a split second due to neuroplasticity. Okay. And so that word just describes the ability that our brains have. And all of us have it. All of us have it. That the ability that our brain has to simply redirect or reorganize or shift to protect us, to uh, help us recover, to do whatever needs to be done in response to a stimuli. Okay. That's neuroplasticity. And all of us have it. It's an innate ability, meaning you're born with that. Each one of our brains are fully equipped with neuroplasticity. Uh, uh, in years past, scientists thought that the brain, as it develops until you get to a certain age, adulthood, and then it just stays that way, freezes, stays that way. But new science research, neurological research is showing that our brain is constantly growing, shifting,
Mm-hmm.
re um, all throughout our entire lives. So the saying, you can't teach an old dog a new trick, that is not true. Okay. And
True.
right, it's not true. And so because of our neuroplasticity, we can learn a new thing at any moment in time, at any stage of life. We can learn a new thing. Our brain is constantly changing, shifting, growing, recovering, reorganizing itself at any moment in time. In fact, as you all are here watching and listening, um, neuroplasticity is going on right now.
Amen. That's right.
You are taking in this brand new information. Um, some of you may have never even heard of this before. And so your brain is just sucking it all in and it's changing. And, a whole lot of different things are going on. And so, and this, because of neuroplasticity, we are able to uh, our brains are able to shift and come up with a response to anything, anything. Our brain can even help us choose not to respond at all, at least not externally. Okay. And because of neuroplasticity, uh, we can utilize those strategies that um, Reb just called out and cause our brain to make a shift or to reorganize itself. Simply using, those are just two strategies, but there are many strategies that we can utilize and
Yeah.
that we utilize without even thinking about it.
True.
But because of neuroplasticity, we're able to do that. And so now understanding that your brain is ever shifting, ever moving, ever growing, ever reorganizing itself. Um, that means that when we are impacted severely, negatively impacted with situations in life, means that we don't have to stay stuck there. We can move through it, okay? Um, as the Word of God reminds us that trouble doesn't come to stay, it comes to pass. And that's how. trouble passes. Um, God has equipped us with brains that can shift and reorient uh, us to take another path, or to take a different action, or not continue to think about that particular situation, but shift our minds to something else while our brain continues to search for a solution, or our brains will figure out a way to reconnect to the source, which is God, and then reorient itself so that we can take new actions and find a new solution, or do a new thing. This is also our brains are involved uh, when the word declares that we become new creatures. Scripture declares and commands us to be ye transformed. How? By the renewing of your mind. If you did not have neuroplasticity, your mind could not become renewed. But God already knew that because he put it there. And that's why that particular scripture is a command. Be ye transformed. That means don't just sit there doing the same old, expecting a different result. Do something different. You're fully equipped to come up with a different solution, take a different action. Um, and so we're thankful to God for equipping us with a sound mind. Hallelujah. And so that's neuroplasticity, what it means. Now, with neuroplasticity, our brain goes through two types of changes, or two types of shifts. Our brain has the ability to go through a structural shift. Structural shift meaning that the actual uh, all of the components of our brain actually can shift, move. Like we do something where it costs us to lose some brain cells. Our brain has the capability and the ability to grow right there on the spot new brain cells. Uh, uh, and so the brain doesn't stay stuck, right there. You don't mentally stay frozen in time. Your brain is always moving through moving through time even. Sometimes we can look at something or hear a song and get triggered, where that song will remind us of something or an event that happened in our past. That quickly, our brain just transports back to the
True.
and then we can look at something else, or um, uh, taste something that will transport us all the way into the future. We can travel like that. Our brain has that ability. That's that neuroplasticity. And every time we learn something new, our brain goes through a structural change. As you all are hearing this new information, your brain is developing new neural cells or new brain cells, and your nerve endings are connecting and reconnecting as the information hits your ears, and it goes across your mind, and you're thinking about it, and you're making different uh, connections in your brain
Yeah.
about what.
The axons and the synapses are just firing.
Yeah, it's a lot going on right there between the ears, right as we speak. You know, and that physical restructuring. Is called a structural change in your brain. Okay, where your brain, if they looked at it on a sonar,
The imaging machine.
yeah, sonar imaging machine, you, you know, you could see the brain, like sparks are going off, the different electrical messages going across each nerve ending and each synapse. And you would be able to visually see that. So that's a structural change that's going on in your brain right now as you're receiving new information. And then your brain also goes through functional changes. A functional change is there are different parts of your brain that is responsible for carrying out certain um, and different responsibilities and different jobs. And if you have a head injury, and you bump your head at a certain on a certain side, or maybe in the front. um let's say it's you injure the part of your brain that is responsible for memory, let's say. So you may go through a temporary memory loss, but your brain then goes through a functional change where it will redirect that part of the brain that got injured, that may have been responsible for retaining information, or for your memory, and it will shift that area that functions that way to a different part of your brain that is not injured. So, for example, uh, let's say you your sight, your eyesight is going, it's waning, and so you're not able to see that well. Um, that part of your brain that is responsible for getting information through sight, um, and processing it. Okay, for whatever reason, your sight is waning. It's not as good as it used to be, or you get to the point where you suddenly can't see, not with your eyes. Uh, your brain has the capability to uh, shift and reorganize itself where you would see, quote unquote, um, from in a different way. So I remember when I started wearing glasses for the distance. I can't see quite as far in the distance, so I use glasses. Um, uh, in the past, I've used glasses so that I could see in the distance. But when I didn't have my glasses with me, and I couldn't see with my eyes in the distance, but I noticed that I could hear sounds further away from me than before. I could smell. So if I had to try to identify someone that was approaching me and they were too far away for me to make out the details of their face with my eyes, um, if they were speaking, my ears could pick up their voice, and then I could identify them by their voice, um, and know who was approaching me, um, or I could pick up their scent, like that. So when my eyesight was having trouble, my other senses heightened. That's because um, my brain had a slight functional change, so that I didn't have to rely only on my eyes to see. um I can it shifted that gathering information from sight to to my other senses, so I could still gather the information, but I just would quote unquote see differently. Or I also noticed that my spiritual eye sharpened, so I may not have been able to see as well in the physical with my physical eyeballs, but I could see, or like the Lord could would give me a vision, or let me know that's someone that's going, we're going to see that person, in the next few days or what have you. Again, all of that is um a functional, those are examples of a functional shift in your brain. um People who have gotten had amputated limbs, um they they still learn how to walk with a prosthetic, because their brain shift had a functional change, where okay, the brain knows that the leg is may not be there any longer, but um with the prosthetic leg, uh your body still can move and quote unquote walk in different. So that's a functional change. An example of that. So those are functional changes and or structural changes that your brain literally goes through in order to bring about that reshifting, and your
And
brain.
may I ask, so when, like, if a person has a stroke or traumatic brain injury, like an accident or, some kind of, is that, s- does the brain do the same structural as well as
As functional, yes.
functional
Struck
changes?
the stroke. Yes. Um, Sometimes when a stroke happens, that part of the brain, uh, parts of the brain might be literally injured. So, like, as in non-functional. Your brain literally reorganizes itself so that um, that part of the brain that might have been injured due to the stroke, um, it moves the functioning of that part of the brain that was injured due to the stroke to another part of the brain that has not been injured. And so people can, still have their full function of their brain, even though a section of it might have been injured due to.
You say that, and I have heard folks, not just heard, but seen folks with their testimonies about having parts of their brain, like, you can see on the scan that it's not functioning, and that what the doctors thought that they couldn't do, they are doing. Like they wouldn't be able to walk, or they wouldn't be able to talk, or they wouldn't be able to, you know, use their hands, or, but they're doing it
Yeah,
anyway, even with that part of the brain
yes.
not being active.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And that is a functional change. Um,
How
Also,
amazing is our brain?
yes. Also, the brain has the ability to do some repairing of itself. So when the stroke happened, that part of the brain was not functioning. But then, maybe a few weeks later, a few months later, all of a sudden, maybe with some therapy, even, all of a sudden, people regain use of their limb, let's say. Sometimes when people go through stroke, they become paralyzed on one side. Uh, and they think, oh well, that's it, I'm paralyzed, is that side is not going to move anymore. And then all of a sudden they regain the use of that side of their body. The brain went through a structural change and repaired whatever it was that was damaged during the stroke, to the point where they regain the use of that whole side of their body. And that happens to people very, very often. Um, and
So,
so,
question. So
sure.
can the brain restructure itself, or can you rewire your brain for mental strength when you're going through like psychological or emotional overload? Like
Yes,
just like
yes. And that's the crux of the matter of why we're even discussing this. Because even with trauma, you go through life, you go through some very unpleasant situations or events, and you suffer trauma. Um, uh, According to this now study of uh, neuroplasticity, that lets me know that trauma is not permanent. That means that even mental illness is not permanent, unlike what doctors used to think. So, me being a neuro linguistic therapist, I understand that um, all of your behaviors are learned. And because they're learned, they can be relearned.
unlearned or retrained. All right now.
Yes, yes, yes. And so, and this is why, due to the brain's ability to reorganize itself, form new brain cells, new neurological synapses. The brain can like become brand new, literally. And so, with those emotional and mental, even physical um, traumas that happen, we don't have to stay stuck there. We don't have to continue to live like that. We can overcome, we can move forward.
Yeah.
And this is why, because we have been equipped, our minds, our brains have been equipped to deal with uh, traumatic situations. It's just that we were not aware. We needed the tools to do that. And so strategies like the two strategies that you called out will cause they will cause the brain to reorganize, reshift.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just what I was saying. Like when your frontal brain, your center for decision, when the is the amygdala, the other part of the brain that takes over the flight or flee, flight or freeze. That one. Whenever that happens, it's actually taking over our reasoning, our ability to reason, to make
Yes,
us fearful, to make us think that we can't do it, but you can. And to know, as you were saying with neuroplasticity, it's like having that neural pathway, like having a traumatic brain injury, or or to be like you have things of the past to hold you back. The more you think about it and you keep rehearsing it, that's like walking the same path. That's like, like if there's an uncut path and you start walking on the grass and you walk on that grass every single day, it's going to form a pathway. And that's what happens in our brain. But our
yes,
brain says if we then create if we can train or say no, stop, to ground yourself, to use the sense of smell, vision, touch, right? Or hearing, or to ground yourself, to, as I said, pick that thing, touch it, close your eyes, wait, this is my phone. I'm here. I'm not in the past. You've just created a new neural pathway. Now you just need to walk on that new pathway to say, wait, I'm not in the past, I'm in the present. And every time the old thoughts want to take you back to that old path, you say, no, I am walking or driving this new path. We have that within us to say no and to direct ourselves. And when we're doing that, we're creating
Yeah.
new pathways for our brains to come alive again. And that path that was worn down, what do you think is going to happen? Oh, I love how God made us.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
what
Continue.
with habits, things that we learned when we were a kid. That's the way to do this. That's the only way to do this. And then as we go on in life, we come across a situation that will cause us to change that particular habit or change that viewpoint. And we then see how to do that same thing a whole different way, a more better way. Um, and that causes us to grow. Neuroplasticity helps us grow. That's
Yeah.
what growth is. Um, and so, and growing is, you're learning or learning how to do things better, learning how to do things different, um, learning more appropriate responses to different situations as you grow more mature. Um, all of that, yes, that's us forming new brain cells, new neural paths, a new causing our nerve endings to connect in different ways and process the maybe the same information or similar information in a different way, and that
Yeah.
causes, that's where we get updates,
Yeah.
and improvements and
Yeah.
new inventions and new ideas, new ways to look at things.
Yeah. And
That's
also
mhm,
ways not to be fearful, because that's something that freezes us, that causes the brain to get to that space of stuck where, oh, oh, nothing. And then, no, you don't have to remain in that place and to
exactly
know that
us.
you you,
God made
you
us.
are created. And what I love is that God created us to grow, and
Yes,
and in growth it's newness, you know.
yes,
And
newness
so
every day.
no, we're not created to be entities that remain stagnant at all.
Not at all.
So the
God is
the
God.
traumas, right, the traumas, the abuse, the illnesses, whatever it is that has caused any form of damage, is a temporary situation. It's
Yes,
really not, you know, because the body will find a way around it somehow or some way
right. And God will
into the
even
brain,
direct or redirect.
redirect the brain, right? Yes.
Exactly. And sometimes it's as simple as making a decision. I will not be stopped. I will not fear. I will fear not. That's what I'm going to do in this situation. That situation keeps happening, and I might have been become fearful 100 times, but on this 101 time,
Um,
I am not going to fear. I just decided that's it. Not going to do that. I'm going to do something totally different.
you
That
know what?
mhm,
It takes that one time.
that one time, that one time to decide. You know what? I'm not going to do the same old, same old. I'm going to break that habit and do something totally different and form maybe a new habit that works better for me. That's what this is. And we
Yeah.
have the ability to do that because God has equipped our brains with neuroplasticity.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
know that we can actually rewire our brain by the
yeah,
way we think. And that is true. Can I just say this because I remember years ago, um I was driving a car and the car got stuck at a light and I was stuck there and the fear of that. And then after I didn't drive for years, I remember the first time a friend of mine gave me a ride and went to the hospital and was bringing me back home. And while I was at the hospital, um, their job called and said they had to go to work. So they started to drive back and said, oh, they look at the time and said, no, they need to get to work. And even though they had before gotten time off, but then the job said, you need to come in. And so they drove up to a subway. I kid you not, drove up to a subway, talking about our brains here, drove up to a subway and said, turned off the car and said, hey, you got to take the car. You got to take yourself home. I'll pick up the car from by you.
wow.
I sat at that subway with tears running down my cheek, going, wait, can I get somebody to come drive this car? Like, and then I'm like, no, I can't do that. I mean, I have my license and
Right.
everything. And I said, God, I need your help because I can't move. I was paralyzed by fear. Honestly, I was
Yeah, yeah,
fearful. And I
here.
kept thinking, because with the cars, everything, and there was a truck behind me and the horn it was scary. And I froze there. But anyway, later on, someone came and helped and pushed the car out the way. But that brought me back to that situation. And so I kept thinking, I can't drive. There's no way I can go out in traffic. I cannot drive. I'm stuck. So I'm just gonna stay in the car until they get off work. And then I was like, what are you doing? That's so foolish. Why you have things to do? And so I started up the, the car and I was
Yeah,
creeping,
that's right.
creeping, creeping. And then as I kept driving and going along, I got more and more confidence. That one today, I mean, I have driven distances,
That's
miles, hundreds of miles. Seriously, um, that one decision freed me from that
yeah,
fear. And that way you can do it. I did it, and God was with me and he got me home and I was able to, so yes, it's the one decision. It's the
under
one decision because after time and time and time of doing things the same way and you say no. No.
right.
I also remembered I had an anxiety panic attack. I went to I was at the court. And get this too, the day it happened, listen, a prisoner got away.
Wow.
And it was chaos. And they lock things down.
Yeah,
And I just so happened, I said, I was in the bathroom. I simply ran to the bathroom real quick. And I said, Lord, this has got to stop. And I will no
yeah,
longer be afraid. I will
yes.
no longer be afraid. And so that was another overcoming moment. It just created a new neural pathway. And I
Yes.
walked out
Move.
and then stayed where we stayed. And then they said, okay, they secured everything. Now you're released. And it was like, I was okay because, hey, for me, I said, God is with me and he's not going to let anything happen. So, hey, here we are. But that also changed. So I understand what you say. It's and it's the grounding too. Like if you have that favorite smell, or you have that key, or you jingle the keys, or something, or you look at that picture on the wall that says, wait a minute, I'm not back where that thing was. I'm not in the abusive situation. I'm
Right,
not being abused right now. I'm not in that accident, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. This is not where I am. And sometimes even people with illnesses, when you've had certain kind of illnesses, sometimes certain things you just, you panic, right?
yes,
And
you-
no. And that's why it's important to the other strategy besides grounding yourself, savoring your emotion through your senses, is to name the emotion, because you
yes,
have to know what it is you're feeling. Because it
right,
might, is this fear? Is this anger? Is this hurt? What is it? Right? And the moment you take control and say, no, well, this is what this is,
right,
then this doesn't fit the situation. And so your rational mind now start rationalizing things like, wait a minute, you're not in that, right?
right,
And
yeah,
so you're just making a new, and you allow your frontal lobe that makes rational decision to take over, to ground you, to say, here I am, and no, and this is how. Yeah, so you can rewire your brain, the neuroplasticity. You can rewire your own brain in an instant. It takes an instant to
and
to
so
change things.
um even a stopping to take a breath, and that moment where you
Breathe, breathe. And
just
that's important too.
take a deep breath, in that in the seconds that you took that deep breath, you gave your brain the the amount of time to go through a shift. And you'll find that even after just taking one deep breath, all of a sudden you can think clearer. Your brain stops becoming stuck and starts moving very, very quickly. The solution will happen right then and there. You can think clearer just from taking a deep breath. Because while you took that deep breath, you sent fresh oxygen straight to your brain,
Hmm.
which is the muscle as well. And that fresh oxygen energized, activated that brain muscle. When you exhaled, you breathed out carbon dioxide. You breathed out toxins. You breathed out that temporary mental fog that your brain went into and your body went into as soon as whatever the situation was jumped off. Um, and so once you breathed out that mental fog, those toxins and everything, your brain that quickly starts.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's attached to your heart too,
Yes,
because that breath actually starts when your heart was racing, it just slows it. It
yes,
just
it helps your heart, tells your heart, okay, slow down. You don't have to.
yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and your circulation moves, of course,
Yes.
properly. You ever notice that the moment something unexpected happens, the first thing we do is we start breathing short.
Yes.
If we're sitting here, having a conversation, all of a sudden we hear a loud bang, bang. First thing we do is we even stop breathing for a couple of seconds because it startled us. Fear cuts your breath.
Mm.
It cuts your breath.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just shortens it. Sometimes it cuts your breath where you're not breathing for a couple of seconds because
Mercy. Mm.
Okay. And in in those moments where you were startled and you were not breathing, you were actually frozen. You were not doing anything because
Yeah.
you didn't know what to do. But when you decide, okay, let me just take a breath, let me go ahead and breathe now. Then all of a
Yeah.
sudden,
Yeah.
you, you become activated. You get back into motion. You're not
Yeah.
frozen with fear any longer. God created us to move.
Yeah.
Scripture declares that it's in Him that we move, we live, we breathe, and we have our very
The
being.
being. Yeah. And
He
also what about water? If you have water, you could take sips. Just putting a sip of water on your tongue can
Yeah,
change things in an instant as well,
exactly.
because you're telling your brain, you're like, everything is okay. Your brain is like, oh, and you swallow, right? And so, and it's just, I find it so amazing how God created our parts, that the connection, the communication, right, with the nervous system from crown of our heads to soles of our feet, right?
Even
The
even take
spinal cord.
right. Even when you take a sip of water or liquid or whatever, you have to breathe first.
There you go.
To breathe first. You can't take the sip first and not breathe.
Right.
You have to take so you take in some fresh oxygen real quick in order to take the sip and swallow.
Yeah.
But yes, God has created us in an amazing way. The scripture is true. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. These brains that we have, oh my goodness. Um, you know, First Timothy 2 and 7. Uh, First Timothy 1.
No, Second Timothy 1:7.
Yes. 1 and 7 lets us know God gifted us. He gave us three things. He didn't
Power.
give us the spirit of fear, but He gave us power, love, and a sound mind.
And you just took my closing.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
He gave us that. He gave us that. And with those three things, we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. The Word of God has so many uh, scripture references to the brain, to the mind, and he he gifted us with these great sound minds. And even in His Word, he tells us how to take care of it, how to work with it, so that we're not overwhelmed. We become more than conquerors in Christ Jesus. We become victorious no matter what the situation is. We are able, more than able, to
Yes.
overcome it because of God and how He created us. If we stay connected to Him, we can face anything, and we recover whatever it is. We will recover.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Our testimony, yeah, it's true, and we live this, all of us. So we thank God for neuroplasticity. We thank Him for equipping us with that, and now making us aware that we don't have to be anxious for anything. It's possible not to be anxious.
Mm-hmm.
You, you
It
know,
is.
make a decision that, okay, I'm not going to freak out on this. No, not going to
and,
change my.
and it's so, and I remember when I was in college, they said, like, one of the top fears that people have is speaking in front of other people. And I read somewhere years ago that many actors and actresses, and today is still true, that many of them say that they actually are on medication in order when they have to go in front of the public and do the junkets and so forth and so on. And so it's like, wait, that's a common thing that should not be common at all. And that just tells me that, we have something working against us, but God is
Right.
greater. And
And
so I want to share something with you guys. So hang on a second. Let me see if I can go to my let me share this so you can, so hopefully you can see the screen. Um so we're having Carmel's Depression and Anxiety Wellness Foundation, that's CEDOF, and the CEO and founder, Miss Marie Antoine Pierre. She's been on before, and this year will be the third annual workshop that is being in. It's done in collaboration with Brooklyn Public Library. The bar president, the deputy bar president will be at week one and another week. So you have to come to find out which week. So this one will be entitled Let's Talk Mental Health. It is a summer empowerment workshop. It will be from June 24th to July 29th. It will be every Tuesday. So it's not every day of the week, it's one day each week, every Tuesday from June 24th to July 29th. Week one is the introduction of mental health, a conversation on depression and anxiety. Week two will meet the mental health professionals. Week three, community resource and employment opportunities. To stay tuned to see who will show up. And usually they're giveaways. I mean, these workshops are functional, they're practical. And Thais, our psychologist, could tell you she will be facilitating one of the workshops as well. Week four is coping with grief, strategies for stress and anxiety. You know that, especially in the time we're living in, like almost every time you hear about someone dying, people are losing loved ones left, right, and center. Some families, it's a lot. Since COVID, it's been ongoing. And so there are folks that are trying to cope with not just that loss, but loss of, not just the loss of loved ones, the loss of job, loss of income, loss of so many things, even divorces and homes. So, grief is grief, right? And loss is loss. And so there will be strategies to teach you how to cope with the grief so that you can still function, because grief can really knock you out. And the Bible tells us that grief will is leads to a slow death. There are people who have died because of grief. So you need to still function for your loved ones who are around, right? And so week five is freestyle expressing your mental thought. We've done painting and drawings and writings and vision boards. And this year it will be something interesting. You've got to show up to see what it is. And then the end of year program and wrap up. Usually, certificates are given out and awards are given out. And so it will be held at the Brooklyn Public Library, the Cortelyou branch, which is 1305 Cortelyou Road. It is at the corner of Argyle and Cortelyou. And it starts at 6 p.m. and it will end about 7:45 p.m. Seating is limited there. You can scan, I'll post it on the page and you can scan it and sign up. You need to register to secure your seat. So please show up. I remember the first year we did it, our community board, we lost a young member of the board, Dwayne, and that was such a shock. And the very day the workshop was grief, um, he was the day he passed. and so he worked with quite a few of our elected officials. So when I tell you it hit across board, the community board, he was chair of the youth, um, our youth conference, and he worked with youth. He worked for so many, I can't even start to call the names. Dwayne Joseph has worked with. So I remembered some of our elected officials coming to that very workshop that very day. And since then, folks have been just grateful for the workshops because connections are made, therapists are there, psychologists are there, the bank is there because, your life, you need to know that you still have to pay bills, you still have to, you know, things are still happening around you. So it's just a way of coping. And please tune in. And with that being said, I'll stop sharing and I'll ask my co host and my guest if they want to say anything. So I'll stop sharing now.
Yes. Oh, where am I? Okay, there I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yes. It's do register, scan, and come out. The Seedorf workshops are very informative, very empowering, and
She's
they
been there, she knows.
yes, they make it their point to hand you very pertinent information that you can use right then and there. Okay. And yep, I'll be there. And Rev will be there as well. And I am so blessed to be able to present at one of the workshops. But we all need to just take time out and mind our mental matters. Okay.
Yes,
And so doing things,
definitely.
those
Yeah.
workshops.
I
Uh,
just, sorry, one second. I just saw that Betty is on, and Betty just lost her sister just yesterday morning. So let us remember Betty in prayers. And, as I said, every day you hear,
yeah, it's so true.
every day, but
And
God.
but God, but we thank God that we have neuroplasticity where we can our brains can redirect and uh reorganize itself so that we can think of different ways of handling different situations. Now, in addition to the two strategies that Rev had the three strategies that Rev had mentioned. Um, I'm just going to call out a couple of things that we can all do to increase our neuroplasticity. Okay. And neuroplasticity is just causing your brain to reorganize itself, to reset itself. Okay. Um, God had created our brains not to just be frozen, but to move, to be ongoing, to be ever flowing. Okay. And so these are some things that you can do to increase or maintain that neuroplasticity. Okay. So that your brain can continue to move quickly and reorganize itself to come up with new solutions, to regenerate itself and your body as well. One of the things to do in terms of increasing your neuroplasticity. For one thing, neuroplasticity is um, impacted by age. The younger you are, the faster and the more frequent your brain will move, simply because you're taking in a lot of information the younger you are. But then as you approach maturity, it slows down a little bit. A little bit. It doesn't stop. It just slows down.
Slows down, not stop.
Right. It does not stop. It just slows down. And it never stops. Okay. It just slows down. Now, it doesn't get to the point where it's not moving. It doesn't even get to the point where it slows down so slow that it might not seem like it's moving. It just slows down a little bit. That's all it does. And so, saying that, that means that regardless of what your age is, you can do things to promote, increase your neuroplasticity. Okay. And these are some of the things that you can do. Uh, Number one, um, get a great night's sleep. Sleep is extremely important for your brain's functioning. Okay. When you sleep, your brain literally resets itself. When
Yes.
you sleep, and I
Oh,
mean,
we have to come back and do that one to show
oh,
how the brain actually dumps,
yes,
cleanses. Yeah, the brain cleanses itself at night, guys. That is
yes,
when we get adequate sleep. Because when
yes.
we don't get adequate sleep, it doesn't do that. And that's why we can have brain fog. But continue. I'm so sorry. I just got excited. That's another part we have to do.
And what she meant by adequate sleep is consistent sleep. These little cat naps where your sleep is interrupted, no, that won't work. You have to have consistent sleep. Be sleep for a consistent, a steady number of hours, okay? Because once the brain starts doing the brain dump, when you wake up suddenly, you wake up in the middle of the brain dump. So then the brain got to reorient itself over again, and shift gears and stop doing the brain dump. So a consistent amount of hours of sleep. Okay, not the cat naps. All right, that's number one. Um, Number two, eat right and exercise. Uh, our brains are even impacted by what we eat. So if we had a breakfast with uh, Danish and a cup of coffee and halfway filled up with sugar. That's not conducive to a healthy brain function. That's not conducive to building proper neuroplasticity. Sugar is a stimulant, and it'll speed up your brain, but it'll speed it up, and then stop. And so then you go through a crash. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes you go through a mental crash where you just can't think, or you can't have a consistent thought. Can't think straight because everything is like just taking your attention all over the place. So you're acting what we call scatterbrain. Your brain can't decide
Function.
one direction to move in.
Focus.
Everything, yeah, you lose focus. So that happens when we have too much sugar. Sometimes even with coffee, the caffeine, it revs us up, but not in a consistent, focused direction. So do be mindful of what you're eating. um, Fruits and vegetables, having a proper um, diet will help your brain. It will help your body. It even helps your spirit. So eat right, and move. Our bodies were designed to be in motion. Okay, so you know your regular movement might be exercise, but it might be walking. Walking is an exercise. Some people don't like that word, exercise, but just keep yourself moving because our bodies are designed to function better when we move. Okay. So move, exercise, move around. Um, it promotes a better circulation, and your brain moves as your body moves. Okay, and moves better. So eat right and exercise. Okay, and then learn learn a new skill or read a book because learning a new skill, it requires you to use your brain muscle in a different way. Even reading a book or reading, it stimulates your brain to move and move in a certain
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
way. Okay, where
Yeah.
you're processing information, and as we stated before, uh, when every time you're gaining new information, it causes your brain to move, it causes you to form new synapses and grow brand new brain cells and everything that are ready and willing and able to process that information that much faster. So learning something new, or reading, stimulates your brain and increases neuroplasticity. um, Even doing those brain teaser exercises, or even the word searches, um, even coloring. When you're coloring the adult book coloring books, and the word searches, all of that stimulates your brain and causes your brain to move in different new ways. As you're looking for that word in that word search um, book, or doing a puzzle, challenging your brain so that you have to think and figure it out, that all of that activity increases your neuroplasticity and causes you to think better, faster. It causes your brain muscle to flex. Okay, regardless of how old your brain is, regardless of how old your brain is. Studies show that seniors that do something as simple as coloring, they reduce stress. It increases their hand-eye coordination. It stimulates their brain. It causes them to increase their memory as well. Um, and it's just really good for them to do. And so back when I worked at the senior center, we had adult coloring books just scattered all the way around the place, So in case you felt a creative moment and you felt like coloring, it's right there. And the only thing you had to do is start coloring. Also, with
Hello. Well, as Thais was telling you, um, yeah, as a matter of fact, the more active you are, if you are a senior, you have your grandparents or your great grandparents, even if they're more sedentary, meaning they're not moving around doing exercises like they walking around, if that's not possible, as long as their brain is being utilized, it helps them to keep even young. And sometimes their brain is registered as being a certain age simply because they're using their brains to do the puzzle, do new activities, like if you can garden, if you can, unfortunately, it seemed like I just lost you can garden, you can knit, you can sew, you can do the quilt, That's something, and that's an activity. Quilting and crocheting and knitting is something you that an older person can do with a younger person, and that right there is intergenerational teaching and just creating new neural pathways and just making the body overall stronger and healthier, and the mind and the brain just staying younger. So that's a great thing. It's even, I read something about Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's that kept moving, that was functional, right? Simply because they were moving. So it's a good thing. We weren't created to be sedentary. When we sleep at night, our blood actually pools. That's why when we wake up, we need to keep moving. But when you are an active person and you sleep, then that's when you can awaken without feeling the pain and the aches, you know. So, it's a good thing for us to move. So, yeah, we can, as I stated before, we can, God designed us this way, and so we can regulate our emotions and we can rewire our brains for mental strength. And it does not matter what age you are at all. Just know that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And I had wanted to close with, and I will close with, in Second Timothy 1 and 7 says, "For God did not give us the spirit of timidity, so that no matter what you're going through, when the stresses of life comes at you, when loss and traumas and just the overall stressors of life, the pressures that you may feel, and whether they're biological or they're societal, just know that God did not give you the spirit of timidity or fear, right? But He has given you a spirit of power, of love. This is the three things that Thais was talking about: power, love, and a sound mind, right? And so that you have the ability to allow you to be calm, or even if for an instant or a moment you're not, to regain calm, to be well balanced, to have a well balanced mind, and to have self control. Because when you don't have self control, the Bible said you are as a city without walls. And a city without walls is a vulnerable place. You are vulnerable, you are prone to attacks. So when you have control, and you can maintain that calm that God wants you to have and will help you to have, you can be, you can function optimally the way He created you to function and to do all that you need to do. So, with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Wake the Nation. And we're supposed to have someone come to us next week, not next week, next month, in regards to some diseases that are going around, and just so you can know, what to do, what not to do, so forth and so on. So we'll see how that works out. But if not, God always has a topic for us, because He wants us to be well and to know what it is that we need to do. So I thank you all for tuning in. And Reverend Lee, would you like to say anything, or you're just being silent?
I'm listening, getting the information. I think you had mentioned something about something was taking place uh, somewhere. I didn't see it all on the
Oh,
screen.
oh, I will send you the flyer.
Oh, please,
The
thank you.
CDOF, we're having our third annual from June 24th to July 29th. It's every
Okay.
Tuesday from the 24th, and it is dealing with mental wellness. So there are different
Ah,
workshops. There's for jobs, for meeting the psychologists and psychiatrists, just so to make the connections and the resources, coping with grief, and we just, and then fun night when we're doing a fun activity. So it's always great.
and
And
where's that? Where's that going to be, Dr. Chang?
it's going to be at the Cortelu Branch Library, which is at the corner of Cortelu and Argyle Road in Brooklyn.
In
13.
Brooklyn. Okay. Okay. So
Mhm.
you can send me the flyer. Yeah.
I will send you the
Thank
flyer.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Reverend Love, for the information. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right. So I pray that we create new neural pathways, knowing that God has created our brains not to be stagnant and to be able for us to continue, and that we are functioning and we are alive. God is the God of life, and it's about growth. So may you grow in peace, grow in power, grow in sound minds. Have a wonderful night. And thank you, my co-host. I think her internet something happened, but this is what technology is all about. But thank God the information has been disseminated. So thank you all for tuning in and stay well. Know that we love you and you're loved by God even more. All right.
Love you too. God bless.
God bless.